Okay, so we are going to practice for the drill drawing these sine, cosine, and tangent graphs that we looked at in the last lesson. So in order to do this, I could draw a table of values, or actually what I'm going to do is sketch a unit circle, because we pretty much just use the four corners of the unit circle as our graphing points. And I'm going to put my radians with 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. And then my ordered pairs, 0, 1. Oh, what am I doing? 1, 0. I'm going over 1 and up 0. 0, 1. Negative 1, 0. And 0, negative 1. And on the outside, I'm going to go ahead and list what my tangent would be. This would be 0 over 1, which is 0. This would be 1 over 0, which is undefined. 0 over negative 1, which is 0. And this would also be undefined. And I know that when I get to tangent, I am going to need my pi over 4. This would be 3/4 pi. This would be 5/4 pi. This would be 7/4 pi. And I know my ordered pairs are square root of 2 over 2 and 1. And then I know as I go to my other quadrants, this is my positive, quadrant, negative, positive, negative, negative, positive, negative. So this should help me to hopefully answer all my questions. Okay, so I'm at 0. What is my, now sine is the y coordinate on the ordered pairs. So I'm just going to be looking, let's see, for sine, I'm going to highlight in pink just the y coordinates. That's all I'm looking at are my y coordinates. Okay. So at 0, I'm at 0. Pi over 2, I'm at 1. At pi, I'm back to 0. At 3 pi over 2, I'm at negative 1. And at 2 pi, I'm at 0. Draw that curve. Then I go backwards. So I'd be at negative 1. Then I'd be at 0. Then I would be at 1. And then back to 0. And to get those, I simply went this direction. So for this part of the curve, I went counterclockwise, the positive direction. For this part of the curve, which is all negative, I went clockwise. Okay? Now, for cosine, I'm going to highlight in green. And so I start at 1. Then, okay, I'm going counterclockwise because it's in the positive direction. I get 0, negative 1, 0, back to 1. Then going in the negative direction, I'm going to go this way. Still start at 1, then 0, negative 1, 0, back to 1. Okay. Then for a tangent, I see that I'm undefined, which is where my asymptotes are, at my pi over 2's. And then I'm going to, right, and then I can look at 0. Now, let's see, I'll do tangent in yellow. 0, 1, undefined. Over here at 3 pi over 4, positive over negative would be a -1 for the tangent. And then 0. And at 5 pi over 4, a negative over a negative would be a +1. Undefined. And then here, negative over positive would be a -1. Okay. So, let's see. It's 0. I'm at 0. At pi over 4, I'm at 1. And if I go back to negative pi over 4, I'm at -1. So my curve is going to look like that. Let's see, this would be 3/4 pi, I'm at -1. At pi, I'm at 0. And at 5/4 pi, I'm at +1. And I've kind of just picked up on the fact that I'm always, this is what my pattern always looks like. Sorry, wasn't showing you that all the way. Okay. That's my tangent graph. When we did our parent functions, we did translations and then scale changes. With sine, cosine, and tangent, we're actually going to do scale changes and then translations. All the same rules are going to apply, as you'll see. It says find an equation for the image of y equals the cosine of x, so we're going to be using cosine of x under each scale change. Let's remember that x lies in the equation. Okay. And remember, anything that happens to x has to be in a grouping symbol. Changes to x are in a grouping symbol with x. So we want to remember that. So here I have nothing happening to x, but a multiplier to y out in front. So 3 times the cosine of x. And if I want to put parentheses around the x, it just shows nothing happened to the x. But I multiplied out in front by 3. Okay. Let's go to b. This time I do have a change on the x, but nothing on the y. But remember, x lies. So in the equation, this is going to be 4 times x. So y equals the cosine of 4 times x. Now, if you want to pause the video and you want to try doing these now on your own, you can, and then you can check and see if you get them right. Letter C, I have y equals 5 out in front because of what's happening to y, cosine. This is 4 times x, so it's going to be x divided by 4 in the equation. Right, letter D. Y equals 4 is the multiplier for the y, cosine. The opposite of multiplying by -2 is dividing by -2, negative x over 2. So you don't change the negative to a positive. X lies, and it lies in the equation. It's the opposite operation. You might want to write that down. When x lies, it's the opposite operation. So multiplication becomes division, division becomes multiplication. Right. go to our next one, letter E. Y equals 1/4 is the multiplier, cosine, notice negative 1/5 x, which is the same as dividing by negative 5, so we're going to multiply by negative 5. Let's go to letter F. Letter F, y equals, 4 is being multiplied by the whole thing. Cosine, notice, negative 1/3 x is the same as dividing by negative 3, so we're going to multiply by negative 3. For example 2, it says graph the parent function and A and B on the grids below. Explain how the graphs differ from their parent functions. Right, so we are going to do the parent function and we're going to do the new function. So this is going to be our letter A. We're going to be graphing y equals 3 times the cosine of x. So the first thing we need to do is graph the parent function. And so, let's see, I'm going to maybe stretch this up just a little bit. I'm going to put 3 hash marks here. 1, 2, 3. And then when I'm trying to draw my x-axis, which is my theta, what I always do is I cut it in half, and I say that that's pi, and that this is 2 pi. And then I cut each of those in half, and then that makes that pi over 2, and 3 pi over 2. That's how I kind of quickly do it. Then I think to myself, cosine. I haven't learned yet my cosine number. Ordered pairs, 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 1. Cosine is my x. Start at 1, go to 0, then make, oh, I forgot to go my negative 1. Negative 1, 0, back to positive 1. So here is my curve. I didn't sketch that very well, did I? Sorry. Let's fix that. Okay. So there is my original curve. If I want to put it in a chart, I could do that. At 0, I was at 1. At pi over 2, I was at 0. At pi, I was at negative 1. At 3 pi over 2, I was back at 0. And at 2 pi, I was at 1. Now I'm going to do 3 cosine of x, which means I'm literally taking each of these numbers here in cosine of x and multiplying it by 3. So this is going to become 3. I'll actually do this in another color. Let's do it in red. I get 3. Still get 0. I get negative 3. Still get 0. And I get 3. So now I'm going to graph this column x and 3 cosine of x. So 0, I get 3 now. At pi over 2, I still get 0. At pi, I get negative 3. At 3 pi over 2, I get 0. And at 2 pi, I am back up to 3. So, I want you to notice that this right here in pencil was my